If I'm honest, I really hate doing sales. But if you're going to run a successful agency, it's just part of the gig. And like most people, I tend to procrastinate the things I don't really enjoy doing. So a few years back, I decided to map out my sales process in a clearly detailed step-by-step workflow so it would be harder to put off and easier to action. And that ended up being one of the best decisions I've made in my agency. My conversion rates have improved, my pipeline is more steady and predictable, and I've gone from dropping the ball to Johnny on the spot. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I manage my prospects from that initial inquiry all the way to the project kickoff. In this process, you're going to see how I weed out tire kickers, identify the best prospects for my agency, and even get paid to do discovery. If that sounds interesting to you, then stick around and let's get started. My sales process, no matter how I acquire the leads, starts with the project inquiry form. Now this form is simple by design, but there's a few questions in here that help me identify the tire kickers right away, so neither them nor I waste any time. While nowadays, most people find this form on my website and fill it in without me having to ask, even if somebody calls me on the phone or is introduced to me through a referral, I make sure we start the process with them filling in this project inquiry form. Now, if somebody calls me on the phone and gives me all this information, sometimes I'll just go in and fill the form out myself. It's important to me that every project starts out this way. This form ends up collecting information inside my CRM, puts the prospect inside of my pipeline, and kicks off the automation that will follow them throughout the entire sales process all the way to the project start. Plus, it's important to just have the same baseline information on everybody. This way you can always find leaks anywhere inside your sales process if you start to see a repeating pattern occur. When a prospect fills in this project inquiry form, I get to do my first bit of qualification. I'm looking for things that I just know I'm not going to be a good fit for, like for instance, if they say they're looking for an e-commerce site, I don't provide any e-commerce services, so I know that's not going to be a good fit right off the bat. If the project meets my criteria, then I will move them to the next step in the process, which we'll get to here in just a second. But if I have to disqualify them for any reason, I like to go ahead and give them some referrals of other agencies that might be a better fit. Now, thankfully, through my mastermind program table, I have the information on about 40 other agencies, including what their specialty is and what kind of projects they're looking for. This gives me a database to be able to send these prospects to other agencies that are going to be a better fit. Plus, I get to help out some of my friends by being able to provide them with some leads. I think it's a good idea to not leave these prospects empty-handed and just say, sorry, I can't help you. By giving them some kind of referral, you're building a little bit of rapport because while you might not be a good fit this time, that doesn't mean there won't be another project in the future or some other connection through this person that could be extremely valuable. By going the extra mile to just be a little bit more helpful, I think it's a really good long-term business decision. So I always try to give them somewhere they can turn to next, even if that's not me. If the project seems interesting and I think that I'll be able to help, then the next step in the process is to schedule an introduction call. During that introduction call, which I limit to 30 minutes, I try to get some basic information about their project and the goals they're looking to accomplish. Now, I don't have an exact script for how I run these introduction calls. It can range pretty dramatically based on if they're trying to replace an existing website or if they're a brand new business that's just starting out. However, I keep 3 goals in mind. First, I want to see if we're a good fit personality-wise. Second, I want to make sure that I have the qualifications to be able to help them. And third, I just want to get a general sense of the scope of the project. As we near the end of this 30-minute call, assuming that everything's going well and I think this project is going to be a good fit, I like to recap everything I understand about their project and their goals and provide them with some kind of estimate on both the timeline and price of the project. Now, I realize at this point we're pretty low on specifics, so I can't give them any kind of exact numbers, but by now I know if this is a $5,000 project or a $20,000 project. And I really can't emphasize enough how important it is to set these expectations now as early on in the process as possible. It's not doing you or your prospect any favors if you know that this is going to cost $20,000 and they only have $500 to spend. By giving my prospects some kind of idea on the price and timeline for the project this early in the process, we can decide if it makes sense to continue investing time in one another or if it would be better to find a different vendor. I never want to leave one of these introduction calls with a qualified prospect without giving them this expectation up front. This of course means we have to do some more qualification at this part of the process as well. Now, if your client simply doesn't have the budget, then it's pretty easy to disqualify them. But the budget isn't the only thing that might disqualify them at this stage. Perhaps you don't have the skills necessary to take on the project, or it's a bad fit for your agency. Maybe you have a conflict of interest, or maybe you've just sent some red flags that you know aren't going to be a good fit to move forward with. In those situations, I don't bother giving them any kind of ballpark because I know we're not going to work together. I just let them know that after the call is over, I'm going to send them a list of referrals that I think might be a better fit for them. However, if they are qualified, then we move on to the next step in our process. If the project is a good fit, I let them know that after the call, I'm going to follow up via email with a recap of everything I learned, plus information on our next steps, and our next steps are paid discovery. Paid discovery is something I've talked a lot about in the past, and I truly believe it's the best step to make sure that you and your client are on the same page and to have the most successful outcome for the project. Now, I'll leave some links down in the description where I've discussed that before in case you want to dive into some more of that information. There are times, however, when I don't think paid discovery is necessary. I do quite a bit of work where I'm converting a website from an old tech stack over to GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks, and in those cases, there's no real reason to go into an in-depth discovery process when it's really just me copying this from one system over to the other. If paid discovery is required, then my follow-up email after our introduction call has a recap of everything we learned, plus information for them to go learn about the paid discovery process and book their appointment. Now, if you haven't done paid discovery before, you might think this is the point where a lot of prospects disappear. However, in my experience, that's simply not the case. Businesses who have been fully qualified and are ready to invest in their business tend to book these discovery calls right away without hesitation. And the few that do leak out during this process, if you go back and check on their website a year later, I bet you find they're dealing with the same disaster they came to you with. So it kind of feels like dodging a bullet. After we hold the project discovery meeting, I provide my client with a project blueprint. The blueprint covers all the technical specifications of the website, the scope, and the strategy, so that it has everything in one package ready to go. This, of course, includes my updated and finalized pricing and timeline for the project. Now, there have been cases where I determined after discovery that I wasn't the best fit, so instead of giving them pricing information, I give them a curated list of referrals instead. At that point, all I'm doing is waiting for the client to sign the proposal and we're off to the races. Now, this process with a few tweaks here and there has been how I've done all my sales over the past couple years, and really dialing this in has been one of the best things I've done for my business. I'll leave a link down in the description where you can download a copy of my entire workflow so you can see all the details I left out of this video. That's going to include things like how people are tagged in my system as they make their way through the process, the canned emails and follow-ups I send, as well as all the decisions and decision trees that have to be made throughout this entire sales process. I've been considering packaging all of this up, including things like all the canned emails, my inquiry form, and even my proposal, to put together in some kind of live workshop or maybe even a small course. I'd love to know if something like that would be of interest to you, so let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see something like that in the future. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. If you did learn something new or get something out of this, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to make sure to catch the next video, then hit subscribe and we'll see you then.